Yo, what up, my friends? So today I want to talk about how restaurants actually work. If you just got hired in a restaurant, if you work in a restaurant, watch this because it's going to be very interesting to you. We're about to break down the psychology behind the industry, man. So this was my first, experience working in restaurants. So I got hired and literally never worked in restaurants before. And this was 10 years ago. And the moment that I walk in, I was on my own. They're gonna train you, right? They're gonna give you a guide that you can follow around. And this guy is supposed to break down the rules for you, Oh, you can do this, you cannot do that. This is how everything works. Pay attention, kind of thing. But basically you're gonna discover everything by trial and error. You're gonna learn maybe the menu and the rules of the house, and everything else will be freestyle, bitch. That's how restaurants work. So if you can, do a little research on your own and, study how to carry trays, how to, if you're a bartender, how to shake the drinks, how to pour correctly. They might give you some guidance, like quick, but you are on your own, which is the beautiful thing about restaurant, because you're literally just thrown to the wolves and figure it out, save yourself kind of deal. And it works. In this journey, you're gonna find mentors, you're gonna find friends, and you're gonna find backstabbing motherfuckers who, which is the most interesting thing, is like the haters, you know what I mean? Especially guys, if you got hired right now and then you have a coworker that's like, yeah, I be here for 5 years. And you're just like, damn. Because serving technically is supposed to be temporary, People, I think, who made a living and they like now is their whole life working in a restaurant, I think at some point that took over their lives and they didn't have, I don't know. It's just weird because, especially if you work as a server, it's just a temporary thing, right? You want to make money and leave. And people who got stuck in the job, they actually have a hater mindset. Like, oh, look at this new guy coming in and think he's the shit, Like one of my biggest mistakes, I think that ever, is a naivety thing. First time I got tip $100, I work at this nightclub. First tip $100 in my life. I was 3 years in restaurants and it never happened before. Right? I worked in pool systems before, which sucks. If I can recommend you to not work in pool system where everybody gathers the tip, please go after the ones where you make your own tip. That's the best advice I can give anybody. So when I got the chance and I was giving my best customer service, I got tip $100 by a couple. What I did was I ran after the whole restaurant. And I was like, yo, look at this, man. I just got $100. I was like, ecstatic because that meant a lot for me. But you think people are seeing this? Oh, look at him. He can do it. Like, people look at this like, okay, look at this motherfucker. He think he's the shit. All right. After that, backstab always happen, bro. Hire as a bartender, me literally first night I work as a bartender was this. I knew a few drinks and this woman comes in and she's like, hi, can I have a dirty martini, please? I legit look at her and I was like, oh no, everything we have is clean, huh? That was literally what happened. And she was like, excuse me? Are you even a bartender? And I was like, oh shit. And then I asked somebody and they were like, oh, this is a drink. Yeah, it's olive juice and shit. I was like, oh, okay. So, do your own thing. After a while, you're going to handle this shit. Like, people are going to come in and order all kinds of, weird drinks. Oh, can I have a Cape Cod? Cape Cod is cranberry juice and vodka. The Gen Z generation drinks that shit till they die, bro. Acts like, do managers care about you? Answer, no, they don't. They care about keeping the machinery tight. And if you think you're friends with the manager, I'm so sorry, but you're about to get some truth in your face, brother, when you request that day off and it's a Saturday, And then they're like, I'm sorry, but I need you here. And you go, oh no, but it's my sister. She's getting married. I cannot miss it. So it's like, you better tell them you're not going, otherwise you won't have a job. I'm sorry. You knew when you got hired that you work Saturdays. I'm sorry. So, the manager, he doesn't really care. He's caring like more about any moment that you make a manager looks bad. You're either done or you're like in the blacklist. and they're gonna pressure you until you quit. That's how it is. Then again, this is all, human nature. So people, when they're like in a group, 40, 60 people, there's gonna be hierarchy from people in serving, from people in the kitchen, and then from managers, So the higher you go up, the longer you stay in the restaurant, kind of more eyes you get on you. And then also you can like, oh, I'm now cool and they know me, so I don't have to prove myself, So that's when it almost flips on you, because at any moment that you don't show the same hunger as you have when you started, ooh, bro, those managers are turning on you and giving you head to the owner, and hopefully the owner will like you and they'll be like, no, 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 no. I trust this guy. He's been here for a long time, so we keep him, right? But that's the other side. Co-workers, co-workers, like one of the craziest thing about restaurants, like the bond that is built in the shortest amount of time I've ever seen in human nature. People will work together for 2 days and they're best friends forever. I mean, there is the positive on it, because truly I have some of my best friends I met in the restaurant. I met working and sharing the same kind of hardship that we went through and made all of us connect. But also you discover that like, oh shit, that motherfucker is just tricking me to do some crazy shit with him, and now I don't want to get dragged into this. And then the blaming, the gaslighting, all that comes together with this toxic coworker. So first and foremost, know how to separate the toxic coworkers from the coworkers who are actually achieving and trying to build something in their lives. If you're young, especially, a lot of temptations will be, yo, let's go out tonight. We made money, right? Let's go to the bar, to the pub, which is cool. If you're like 24, 22 years old, you can go and have fun, but just don't get consumed by the hang. One of the most crazy things anybody can do is to get consumed by the hang. Everything is about the hang and like where we going after work, especially people who work in nightclub. You indulging with people, but you're not kind of drinking, you're just drinking like on the side kind of thing, and you want to go out to like, yo, I made $400 tonight, I'm paying shots, bitch, come on. So don't get consumed by that, because at the end of the day, it make you pay. It's gonna make you pay, either like with your relationship being destroyed, either with you getting fired from the job because you're hungover and you didn't provide and you're in a bad mood and somebody got mad at you and complained online. Ooh, that's how it starts. And the most exciting part, finally, is the tip. How can you increase your chances to getting a tip? Because one of the craziest thing in restaurant is like, is a $500 tip, a true scenario for me? Yes, it is. But also, can you create the energy that a $500 tip requires? That is the most crazy, beautiful thing I learned in restaurants, Once you learn how to build that $500 tip from like a couple, because rich people, man, listen, they will give you money if you make, if you play the notes. They just want you to play the notes. It is rare, but what's most rare is the energy that, kind of not demands, but, shows that you're like, what, that guy, dude, he made something different for me tonight. I've been going to restaurants since I was, I was myself. And now this man just made, like, I don't know, your mood, something you say, the relatability, the rapport you build with them. That's gonna knock all those, boxes to be like, what, I'm gonna give this guy an outstanding amount, Me, the biggest tip I ever made was on a large party, and it was $800. But, $500 was left by the guy, which was a black man, by the way, and $300 was already included. And he left me for $500 extra. So, it's all about you creating that, sort of experience for the guest. And then if he had money, man, imagine, like, the guy, I remember he looked like Ja Rule. And he kept calling me Latino boy the whole night. I was just hanging out, giving them the drinks, Hennessy, Crown Royal. And at the end of the night, he was like, just sign a big $500 on the whole check. I was like, thank you very much, man. You have my family. Everybody's feeling good. That was a great night. You made it happen. So once you hit all those boxes and you overcome expectations, you're good, man. It might not be 500, but it might be 100. It might be 200. You know what I mean? And then you're going home with real money. All right, thanks for sticking up, this whole video. And then if you want, you can buy my book, Who Would Have Thought, A Server with PTSD, on Amazon. It's about, a server who start working in a restaurant and then he develops PTSD, but he doesn't know. He thinks it's just going crazy. Also, that's when he gets introduced to cannabis by his coworkers, and then he starts changing his mind, therefore changing his life. I'm Daniel Diaz, guys. I'm a stand-up comedian. Before, back in the day, I was a bartender, working nightclubs, working restaurants. I work from fine dining to the shitty bar, the tiki bar, where you deal with the guy from the Ferrari, from the guy with the Honda Civic, man. And it's literally like an education. So if you work in a restaurant, go for it, learn, become a better human, become a better citizen, and that's it. See you guys next time.